Welcome back to my channel. I'm Tanvir Kang, and today I'll be sharing my top tips on how you can get a 9 in GCSE History. I'll break down the top study techniques, common mistakes to avoid, and my top tips to help you smash that exam. History is all about content, analysis, and structure. So let's make sure you're studying smarter, not harder. So how can you learn the content effectively? History is one of the most content-heavy subjects out of all of the GCSEs. So let me explain how you can master it efficiently. The first thing to do is timelines. This is a great way to display your notes. I used it a lot, especially for the Cold War. Write on there some key dates and key events. The next way to learn your content effectively is using mind maps. Now you want to make sure you have mind maps of each event, and for this you want to have the causes and consequences. This will help you if there are any questions on specifically the causes and consequences, and for any of your essays. Now this next technique, I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos, and it's because it's so great, and that is active recall. So get a flashcard and write on one side a question. On the other side you have the answer, and this way you can test yourself. See if there are any gaps in your understanding. Now this next technique you might be unfamiliar with. It's called blurting. So what I want you to do is get a whiteboard or a piece of paper and think of a specific topic or event. And I want you to write everything that you know about it. After you do this, compare it with your notes and see, are there any gaps in your knowledge? If you're struggling with just simply memorizing the content, other than using these techniques, think of history as a story. How does one thing lead to another? Thinking of it as a story, it will help you connect the events better. Because after one thing happens, you'll think, what would be the logical next thing? And then it continues. Next tip is using precise historical terms. For instance, don't say the Treaty of Versailles left Germany unhappy. Instead say the Treaty of Versailles caused political and economic instability in Germany. It sounds so much more advanced to the examiner, and that will help you get those extra marks. Now, there are two things which you need to use for all of your subjects. The first one is the specification. Now, if you don't already know, the specification has everything which you need to know for a subject. I want you to go through it and highlight any topics which you don't know yet. The second one is past papers. Now check out my other video which explains how to best use past papers. But this will give you a first-hand experience of what the actual exam will be like, which will help you especially with your timings, because history is a very time-pressured exam. As you'll see when I'm telling you how to memorize the content, I've named quite a few different revision techniques. That's because you want variety to keep your brain focused and engaged. Now for some common mistakes and how you can avoid them. Well, this first one I remember I made early on, and that's narrating rather than explaining. So what I mean is, don't just describe the event, explain how it happened. Use words like consequently, or as a result of, or subsequently, which show that one thing led to another. History is all about depth over breadth. So in your essays, don't mention 10 or 20 different things. Instead, pick out maybe 4 or 5 and go into detailed analysis on those. Now, this next mistake is probably the most common one out of all of them. And that is not focusing on the question. If the question specifically says causes, only mention the causes. Don't go into the consequences. You won't get extra marks for this. Final mistake, as I mentioned earlier, history is one of the most time-pressured exams. So poor time management will end a lot of students, because you can't get the marks if you've not answered the questions. Practice papers are the best way to resolve this. Doing these practice papers will help you manage your time, as you know what you needed to answer by when. You could say, I need to answer question 1 in the first 10 minutes. If you haven't already, check out my other video which explains how to best use past papers. Now, there's no use having all the content memorized, but you lack exam technique. So, here are my top tips on how you can perfect your exam technique. First one is using something called the PEAL structure. Point, evidence, explanation, and link. This is for your essays. So what you want to do is make your point in relation to the question. The evidence, so pick out a specific event which emphasizes this. Explanation, analyze it. Explain how it led to something else. Link it all back to the question. This will help keep you focused and give some structure to your essay. Repeat this for all of your points. Now, especially for your essays, you need to plan. Spend about 2 or 3 minutes. Rather than just going straight into the essay, this will give you some more structure so you know what you're doing next. Now, as I said earlier, past papers are the best way to improve your exam technique. Once again, check out my other video which explains how to best use past papers. But there's no point of just having the past papers. Ask your teachers or search up if there are any higher tier answers. That way you can see what the difference is between your answers and their answers, and then you know what to improve. For instance, the very top answers for source questions won't just say what the source shows, they'll say what it fails to consider and how that affects its reliability. Adding this extra perspective into your answer is how you reach those top bands. That's it for today. Follow these tips and you're sure to get a 9 in GCSE History. If you found this video helpful, like, comment and subscribe so that you never miss out on a tip. Good luck with your studies and remember, you've got this. Thanks for watching.